I only read one book, but it's a good book, don't you know? I act the way I act because the good book tells me so. If I want to know how to be good, it's to the good book that I go. Because the good book is a book, and it is good, and it's a book.
And having finally escaped from the evil clutches of his father-in-law following a standoff in the mountains where Jacob told him to do one and that the women were coming with him, Jacob went on his way. And the angels of God met him, which was the kind of thing that happened every day to Jacob. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim, and had very little else to report on the matter, which was a shame. For had he been more forthcoming with the events of that day, then this chapter would have been a great deal longer than the mere 32 verses that it does stretch to, and those that would read it would be told all about how these angels did teach Jacob a great many things, after giving him a great many humiliating, repetitive, and humbling tasks to do, such as hammering nails into a piece of wood with just a single strike of the hammer, waxing his ox cart, or shattering roof timbers with his fists. They did instruct him in stealth and the lethal arts of combat, so that he could become a ninja. And lo, upon the day that he was ready for his final test, he did fight with his master until he did best him. And now that the student had bested his master, the master did bring forth a local bandit, and did instruct Jacob to put him to death for his crimes, as he would do so also with the city of Gotham. And Jacob did refuse, telling his master that, like the city of Gotham, the bandit could be saved and turned away from evil ways, and an explosive battle did ensue, in which Jacob did cause the temple to explode in a most spectacular way, and though he did manage to kill all the other ninjas, he did put his life in great jeopardy by saving his master after he did almost fall off a cliff. And when he did get back from his ninja training, Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed there until now, for I was nobbing his daughters, both of them, as well as their maidservants as well, and was in no hurry to leave, for I did get laid daily, and doubly so at the weekend, and though this piece of information isn't particularly relevant, I just had to tell someone. And I have oxen, and asses, flocks, and menservants, and womanservants, and bitches, and hoes, and mountains of bling, and a bright yellow ox cart with a red leather interior, shiny hubcaps, lowered suspension, a banging sound system, and the words Posse Wagon written in pink on the back, and I have sent to tell my lord that I may find grace in thy sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. For he hath heard that thou doth possess a Atari Hanzo sword, and he isn't taking any chances. Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and upon hearing this, his ringpiece did quiver. For slicing and dicing 40 members of the Crazy 88 in a nightclub in downtown Tokyo may be one thing, but 400 airy-arse Hebrews with rocks in socks, well, that was something altogether different. And he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and herds and the camels, into 2 bands, and said, If Esau come to the one company, and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. Which was a sound and worthwhile strategy. However, the secret to its success did rely on Jacob being in the company of those that Esau did not attack, as the fate of those that were attacked would surely be known. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, because with all of the rampant incest, I am not quite sure who my real father is. The Lord, which saidest unto me, Return unto thy country, and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. Art thou sure that this is a good idea? For from where I art sitting, I can think of at least 400 reasons why it may not be. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies, and of all the truth, which thou hast showed unto thy servant, which from the point of view of those that will live many centuries from now, and will benefit from a thing known as science, which will, with patience and hard work as well as logic and deductive reasoning, unlock the secrets of the physical universe, will be shown to be not quite as true as this book doth make them out to be. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become two bands, one that doth cater for the mass market pop audience, and the other that is a harder and more dark sound, that is for the die-hard rock fans who have liked my earlier work. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. For what doth go around doth come around, and I hath ripped him off for both his birthright, his blessing, and his inheritance, and I guess that the 400 men he doth bring with him is not a brass band, and a team of cheerleaders with short skirts and pom-poms. And thou saidest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude, which surely I and my 11 sons cannot continue to keep doing, if we are all dead. So thou hast better make us sure that this chapter doth have an happy ending, for if I doth get a good kicking, then surely I will be looking to pass it on. And for some strange reason, that probably related to the fact that he only seemed to communicate with God when he was dreaming, he got no reply. So he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother. 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, which just happened to be lying around the place, not doing much. 30 milk camels, and their colts, 40 kine, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 foals, which were in this case surplus to requirements. He delivered them into the hand of his servants. Every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove, so that he doth not get to receive these gifts all in one go, and so it may slow him and his army down a little, so that it doth give me chance to come up with a better plan. And he commanded the foremost of the groups, who would, of course, be the first in the firing line, and the group most likely to be put to the sword, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, saying, Whose art thou, and whither goest thou, and whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, also, he is behind us, a really long way behind us. And so commanded he the second, and the third, and all that followed the droves, saying, On this matter shall ye speak unto Esau, when ye find him, or rather when he doth find you. And say ye moreover, Behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me, and maybe he will somehow, after these past 20 years, forget why he has raised an army of 400 airy-arsed, no-necked thugs, and my scrotum will not be drawn over my head in a most sudden and violent way, without it first being detached. So went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company, choosing to stay a while, until he did hear news of how well his gifts were received. And while nobody was watching, he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 woman servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had, which did indeed contradict with the previous verse, which did say that he did go with them. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day, which doth sound a lot like he did get shut of the family for the night, and then did either play with himself until the sun came up, did wrestle with Oliver Reed all night in the nude in front of a roaring fire, or the man was a ninja assassin, who had been hired by Esau to take out Jacob, and he did blend in with the surroundings, so much so that to be invisible to anyone who may have been watching. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he being the mystery assailant, and him being Jacob, he was pissed, And being a ninja, like lightning, he did strike Jacob's pressure points, and he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. For he did not know the 5-point palm exploding heart technique that would cause the victim's heart to explode after he did walk 5 paces afterwards, which was just as well for Jacob's sake, and was Jacob's excuse for walking funny afterwards. And having just been hit square in the face with a stray frying pan that Jacob just happened to find lying around, the man was propelled into a tall stack of empty cardboard boxes that had been stacked there for safekeeping, and several chickens were startled and did flap away, and he did pick himself up and did lunge at Jacob, and did barrel him over, and the two of them did crash through a market stall, scattering goods and produce everywhere, and the stallholder did shout "Hey!" at the two of them, and did ask them what they were doing. And Jacob did pick up a watermelon, and did hit the man over the head with it, splitting the watermelon in 2. But instead of going down like a sack of rocks, the man did pick up various assorted fruit, and did throw them at Jacob, before he did lunge once more at him. And Jacob did grab the man, and spin him around, and throw him upon a table, which did collapse, spilling drinks all over those who were sat around it. And one of these men did get up and wipe himself down, and then did tap Jacob on the shoulder, and he did turn around and did barely duck in time to avoid the man, as he did throw a punch, which did instead hit a large man who had been watching, square on the jaw. And the large man did then pick up a chair, and did break it across the other man's back, and behold, a bar fight did start, and there was much thumping and kicking, and a great deal of balsa wood furniture was broken, and many bottles made out of sugar glass were smashed, and in all of the confusion Jacob did chase through the fighting crowd, and he did tackle the man around the waist, and the two of them did fall through a large plate glass window into the street outside. And Jacob did take hold of the man, and he did hold him in a headlock, and together they stood there, the two of them going around in circles, panting and grunting. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And Jacob did realize that the man was not just a ninja, but also a vampire, and would turn into a pile of ash if he was caught out in the sunlight. And he said, "I will not let thee go, except thou bless me." Unto him, "What is thy name?" And after pointing out that if the man was going to pick fights with people, he should at least find out who he was picking a fight with, he said, "Jacob." And he said, he being the mystery assailant, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hath prevailed." And Jacob, or rather Israel, asked him and said, "Tell me, I pray thee, thy name." And he said, "Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name?" And Israel did tell the man that he did want to know the name of the man whose arse he had just kicked, and whose arse he would be kicking some more if that man did not give him his name. And he, the mystery man, who will forever remain nameless, blessed him there, and afterwards Jacob, who was all battered and bruised and punch-drunk from his epic bout, did call out the name Adrian several times as he was being interviewed by a reporter, and a mousy-looking Italian woman in a red hat, who did not look at all dissimilar to God the Father's sister, Connie, did run over to him and did agree to marry him. And Jacob called the name of the place Panel, for I have seen God face to face, fought with him all night, and kicked his ass, and my life is preserved. But mainly because it was short for panel beating, for a beating was handed out, and no mistake. And as he being Jacob, as the mystery man, who we all now know to be the Lord, was long gone, passed over Panel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh, for it did hurt like hell, and was definitely a result of a prolonged fight with the all-powerful creator of the universe, where he did kick God's arse when nobody was looking, and definitely not the result of him slipping or tripping in the dark when he was not watching where he was going. Therefore, the children of Israel eat all of their vegetables, but not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank, which doth suggest that the children of Israel are cannibals, and doth eat other people, well, apart from the sinew upon the hollow of the thigh. And the Lord did sit in a darkened room with all the curtains drawn tightly close, so that not a single ray of light could enter, with a big bag of frozen peas on his head, in the hope that it might take down the swelling on the many lumps that his head did now possess. And he did contemplate on how unlikely was the notion that the all-powerful creator and ruler of the universe, who, when he did set his mind to it, could do anything he did choose, could be beaten into submission by a mere mortal in a simple arse-kicking contest, even though the Lord could dislocate his opponent's joints just by touching them. And he did once again try and remember his name, which did once again escape his infallible and perfect memory, which did contain all things past, present, and yet to come. And it did trouble him for a little while. Then he did realize that surely, given the glaring inconsistencies, contradictions, and the outright improbability of most of this narrative, only the most gullible of half-wits, that could take the notion of magic apples and talking snakes seriously, could actually, honestly believe that the Lord, the most powerful being in the universe, was afraid of being out in the daylight, and did get his arse handed to him by a mere goat herder.